Hi guys, welcome to our tutor training session for the 2021-22 school year. I'm going to go through several things, but try to keep it as brief as I can. We'll start with a video I shot today on campus that shows you where to go. So I think the important thing to know up front is the plan is to be in person for tutoring with everyone vaccinated on campus. And everyone in masks on campus indoors. Again, that's the way it's going to be this fall everywhere, not just for us. So again, that safety should be in place. Individually, if you have any issues and you need to let me know about them, Zoom is still an option. But I want to make sure that we aren't having, you show up in the arena and then the person that you're meeting with is on Zoom or vice versa. I don't want anybody to feel stood up or confused. So the primary way to tutor is in person in the arena. My video that I'll show will kind of walk through that. So talk to me about any concerns you have about that. I will say, and I'll probably talk about it more, that the Zoom option is still available for a lot of good reasons. The one that pops into my mind is that the athlete is on the road, but still needs help. So they're on a road trip and they left on Wednesday and they usually meet with you on Wednesday night. You can still keep that appointment on Zoom if that's the case, but those are sort of like special cases, right? If you guys, again, arrange to do Zoom regularly, I'd like to know about it, okay? So let us know. It's probably okay, but we want to know who's doing that, which student athletes are doing that. Most of the time it's fine, but maybe it's like, nope, we'd like that person to be in person if at all possible. So then I'm also going to go through EAB Navigate, how to enter your time and some new tricks there, things that have been added, I suppose, and talk about what the location is and things like that. So we'll go through that, and then we'll also go through Workday. I'm going to have my Angela hop on and demonstrate Workday for us, how to enter her time on there. And then we'll do a brief sort of tutor, how to tutor training stuff as best we can, but I want it to be more of a conversation amongst returning tutors and then questions from new tutors most likely. So I'll get right into my video. I'm hoping this is all going to work. I'm just going to share my screen. And start with this. So hopefully my talk today tells you everything you need to know.
When you arrive for a tutoring session, you will enter the VIP entrance, the arena. So here's the arena. Big welcome home Billiken sign. You'll have walked across the parking lot from wherever you're coming from, most likely would be my guess. Soccer stadium, baseball field are that way. As you come to the door, it's going to be locked. So you need to take your ID. Currently, your ID may not open it, but I will have it active by the first day of classes. My ID is in my wallet. There it is. It'll beep, and then I usually use my elbow to press that button. So
hey, I'll pause for a second. Thing I forgot to talk about was parking. So I just assume a lot of you are on campus somehow and will be walking across. Parking isn't great. You'd have to park in the Olive Compton garage if you're driving. So you should be familiar with that, I assume. If you're not, let me know. And then walk over to the arena from there. That's where I park. So I work in that building. You can't park in that lot that I just showed you. The Fred Weber lot is reserved and got to pay extra dough for that. I'm not willing to do that. I'd rather walk. So if you are parking and driving, unfortunately, you have to park in Olive Compton. It's not too bad. But you just want to be aware of that and let me know if you have questions about that parking situation. All right, back into the building.
have to touch handles. Come on in this double door. I usually elbow this one too. No handles. There's some athletes right there. Hi guys, you're on video for my tutors. Very good. You're going to then go into the athletic department lobby to meet the person that you're tutoring. Claire is going to stand in as the person you're going to tutor. There's Claire. Oh, hi, Claire. Nice to meet you. I'm your tutor. Claire doesn't need tutoring. She's too smart. You might hang out here. You might just stand around, lean over there. This is a tutorial room, but it's become the copy room. It's not a tutor room anymore with COVID. So you will find another spot, but hopefully you'll find your person here. Currently, there isn't a receptionist at this desk. We're in the hiring process, so there may be no one here to direct you either. If it's at night, obviously, I won't be here, but you will be able to hopefully find this spot and then find your person. There is a study hall room here. Not ideal, we're renovating it, so it's truly not ideal, but in a week or two, hopefully it's where it should be. But you wouldn't actually use that. That's probably more of a quiet space for people to study and not to tutor. There are some conference rooms down this hallway. My office is the first door on the left, if you ever needed to find me. But there are conference rooms down the hall on the left, and then again upstairs. But with the space available, we probably prefer that you go downstairs. So I'll lead you down there to the restaurant space that we have reserved at night for tutoring and study hall, called Lorenzini's. So it's a bit of a hike from that meeting point, but you will head downstairs, make a left. I'll go down that straight hallway, make a left. Long blue hallway. There's the pavilion. Volleyball is getting ready for season. So head down here. Now, once you've done this once or twice, you may just talk to the person that you're tutoring on a weekly basis about meeting down here, especially if you have back-to-back appointments, because you don't want to have to walk back up to that lobby area. Hopefully you will, get into a rhythm where you'll have two people back to back. That the second person will know to just come find you down here, since this is the designated tutoring space for now. So you'll walk past the arena. You'll walk past the weight room on the left and the training room on the right. So the athletes are familiar with this space. They're down here all the time. I want to make sure you are familiar with it. Now we got two spots here. We got a classroom on the right, currently not being used for anything, but it's very busy. At night, hopefully it's not too busy. Here's the space. There is a whiteboard over here, so probably a good spot to tutor, to be honest, if it's available. So you'll want to get in here, spread out, not be too loud, of course, but you would be able to talk. It's not a designated study area for sure. But it does get a lot of traffic, especially during basketball games. It might not look like this at all, and there might be a bunch of people in here eating food. So most of the time it looks like a classroom and can be used for that. But the best spot that's got the most space and is used for a lot of things these days, as you can see, a meal spot. This is the Lorenzini's restaurant area. There are a lot of seats, as you see. I didn't know everyone would be eating, but you have spots over here in the corners, as well as around this side. So I could imagine if people are studying in here, that you'd be able to come over here and talk quietly at a high top. But there's plenty of seats, plenty of spots. As you see, we got two teams in here eating right now, but at night, it will be a designated study hall. There will also be a monitor on duty between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. when most appointments are happening. That would be probably parked right here. And then you would just let them know if they ask you questions that you're a tutor, going to do some tutoring, possibly meeting your person there, but again, likely you're walking down with them. Something to note that you might want to tell freshmen especially is that their tutoring time counts for their study hall time, but only if they log in. So when you enter that room, the monitor might have them check in, and that's okay. They should log in and count the time there with you as part of their study hall time. Not everybody has required study hall time, so not everyone will do that. But you might remind a freshman like, hey, is this part of your study hall? And because that helps me at the end of the week know their study hall hours instead of having to tack on tutoring appointments. they should add them each time. I think that's all I've got. Hopefully that gives you a good overview in 6.5 minutes.
All right, let me stop that share. Okay, any questions over that setup? Seems pretty straightforward. A lot of you guys are student athletes, I know, so you're familiar with that as well. But just the idea that Lorenzini's is the first choice. In the past, tutoring happened throughout the building in conference rooms and things, but Lorenzini's feels like the most open, airy space. So we've decided that that would be the best for study hall as well as for tutoring. Again, if that's full of teams eating or something, again, maybe the classroom's a better choice all the way down there. But if you wind up going back upstairs, you could explore those hallways. And again, the athletes sometimes these days, I don't know if everybody does, but know where those conference rooms are and things. So no questions on that. I'll go ahead and move on. Let me share my other screen. So we'll talk about entering your availability in EAB Navigate, as well as using it in general. So I'm gonna pick, I guess I'll use my Angela if you're okay with that, my Angela. Since you should be in, oh, were you a tutor and then I rehired you? You might not be in here as a tutor. We'll see. Is this a different job?
It might be.
Okay. Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. Here we go. So when you get in to your account, I may back out of my Angela's if this isn't the right thing, but essentially you'll be in the student home once you're in as a tutor. So a lot of people that are new on here wouldn't see this today. I have to activate you in EAB as a tutor. So once that happens, and once you've done all the HR stuff, you can switch over to the staff home. I've gone through this in a lot of the interviews and stuff, but this is a good reminder as well as, you know, fresh in your mind and refresher for returners. And here's where you'll enter your availability. So my Angela's got old availability still in there from last time she tutored. And she'll add new stuff right before the semester begins. I'd like for everyone to have their availability in by Friday of next week. So that's the 27th, I believe, if possible. I know, you know, that first half week might not really lay out everything that you know you need to do. So you might still be wondering, what does my Thursday actually look like? So figure out what you need to do. And we usually say that first week, but since it's a short week, you know, if you can't put it in the system till the next Wednesday, like that full week, I'm okay with that. But the sooner you get in, the sooner you might start working. So the sooner your availability is in the system, then I can start booking things. If you're new, again, you wouldn't have anything here. So the first thing you would do is add time. This is a review for a lot of people, but I want to make sure it's fresh in people's minds. So if I do Tuesday and maybe Thursday's the same, I could do multiple days or just one. Like we've said, usually evenings are the time to do tutoring. However, that changes a little bit with Zoom and with your schedule as well. So again, we could put 5 to 10. I've recommended to a lot of people to just put 5 to 9. Like I said in the video, there's a monitor in Lorenzini's until 10. So I feel pretty good about people being there. You can walk out and across campus with the monitor if that's necessary, or with the person you're tutoring with. So buddy system there at the end of the night is fine. But if you're more comfortable a little earlier, you might end earlier. How long is this availability active? So you're going to pick fall 2021. It's in there. We're actually in the fall term now. Yay. Add this availability to your personal availability link. I would say yes. It's nothing you guys use a whole lot, but go ahead and click it in case you can or want to use it. Essentially what you'll do is have this link that you could send to someone to let them know what your availability is. So that would come in handy in my mind if you've got a regular scheduled recurring appointment that I've set up. And then that person says, oh, hey, can I meet you later in the week because I've got a test on Friday? You can say yes and tell them the times, but you could also send them this link and then they can schedule with you in the system. So that way it's in the system. I know you're meeting with them. It helps us on that end. Not 100% necessary, but it's better in my mind. So do that, and then you could use it if you need to. We only do appointments for tutoring. Everything's scheduled. There's no drop-ins. The care unit is the student athlete academic support. Make sure you pick that and not tutoring and writing services. That's the other tutors on campus. So tutoring, student athlete academic support. Then location. Location is we've decided is going to be athletic department lobby, which, again, where I showed you, right, in that video. So that's not where you tutor, but it's where you meet. So that'll be the scheduled location. We did that for the student athletes benefit because they aren't having a meeting like this. They'll know, this will help them know where to go. So that's where you should find them the first time for sure, if not every time. Then the service is the only option here is course-based tutoring. And that's when we start punching in all of our stuff. And my Angela is great at financial accounting, and she could probably do some economics. So again, you've seen this before, but if you start typing in those prefixes, you see the list of everything that's ECON. If I type out the whole word economics, it starts underlining the word economics in whatever the course title is. So if you don't remember the Econ 1900 and you remember principles of economics, whichever part you're working off of is fine. And again, it could take a little while to find all those classes that you're good at doing because you're all so smart and you've all taken so many classes. So I'm just guessing here for my Angela. She's got a lot of finance, some principles. She's smart at business. And what else? So I'll just leave it at that. So if you're let's say a business major and you're looking to, again, I've hired you sort of to tutor business, I would stick to business core classes, the classes in your major in this list. You may have taken a philosophy class and done well in it, but I don't want to lose your accounting knowledge to your philosophy knowledge. Now, if you're an arts and sciences major and you're an English major, philosophy major, like put in a bunch of those arts and science classes, the theologies and philosophies, the stuff that, again, might not be your thing, but is part of your degree and you feel comfortable tutoring. So again, it depends on who you are, what I've hired you for. So if you're wondering about that in the next day or two when you're trying to put availability in, let me know. But here's a quick example of those classes, but it takes a little while, right? Then here's the trick. This is a in-person location, but I do want you to go to your Zoom. I'll go here. So you'll go to tools and into, so you'll go into Zoom in here. I don't know, maybe sometimes you guys are only using it on your phone, but there's Zoom. And then you can go to your personal room and copy this URL. I'm going to pretend I'm doing it. And then dump it in here. Whoa, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, there's my Zoom link. Now, special instructions for student. Here's you're going to put fall 2021 tutoring is in person. Zoom link only if necessary. That might be a good way to do it. Maybe tomorrow when I send a follow-up email, I'll include the right wording. So you guys could just copy and paste it into this section, the special instructions. So again, we want everyone following that same idea so that they aren't on Zoom waiting for you when you're sitting in the lobby and vice versa. So make sure we stress that to the student. They'll see that when they get the appointment request. They may not read it, but we're going to push to every team like that. Lorenzini's is the place. Meet in the lobby, go to Lorenzini's. We're going to get that to them. Max number of students per appointment should be a 1. I talked about this in every interview, but essentially you can work with more than one person. We just want to schedule and block you off for that time. If we realize when we're doing the scheduling that accounting, you're doing an accounting appointment and someone else is asking for that same class, we could add that person on. It's okay to work with 2 people. Remember that if you are working with more than 1 person, we pay time and a half for that. Most of the time it's a one-on-one, but we will allow for that sort of prep time if you have multiple people. So it's not normal, but it can happen. And depending on the class, sometimes I think of survey of calculus for business majors. That's one that I have very few tutors for. And if you're a good tutor at that, it's hard to find good tutors. So you may find yourself with 2 or 3 people that have similar problems and questions. So I'm not going to save this one for my Angela. I'll cancel it. But I'm then going to take that one that I built, and my Angela could probably, well, she can't copy this one. If you have old stuff, I wouldn't copy that out of the old stuff just because the location and things are wrong now, right? But if I built that time and had my location correct, I could copy it and not have to punch in all those classes again, right? So down here, my Angela's got her classes in. Ooh, survey of calc. She's going to work a lot. But this looks good, right? It's got the Zoom link and all that stuff, and appointments. So then all I have to do once I copy it is tweak the days and times and say, okay, I can do 3 to 5 on Thursday in the fall. It kept the term in there for you. Click that, add this availability. Everything else stays the same in there. Your Zoom link even copied in. So it won't be too much time for you to get all of your availability in the system. Remember too, you're putting in a lot of time, relative amount of time, more so than you're going to work, right? So if you only want to work 4 hours a week, that's your max, you wouldn't want to only input 4 hours of availability. I'm trying to build typically back-to-back appointments if I can. That might not happen right away. The first couple of appointments might be spaced out, but then I'll try to build on those so that I'm maximizing your time. Like you might become a Tuesday, Thursday tutor, even though you had availability on Monday through Thursday. Maybe Tuesday, Thursday is all you're going to do because of your max hours preferred on here. So that's what's new. That there's this scheduling target hours. If you're old enough, I think my Angela, sorry, I keep referring to you, but I think you're old enough that you remember when they used to have a function like this, and I'm glad it's back. So what you're going to do is, again, put in, what's my Angela got here? She's got a little bit of, 6 hours. She got eight, maybe 8 or 10 hours, right, of available time. But she might go in here in this target per week and say, well, I only want to work 6. That would be way more, that's all I want. We want you to leave this checkbox unchecked. Okay. So it says block scheduling for the week when target is hit. I like that in some ways, but I want to be able to know who can do what. So when we search by a class, if somebody says, I need help with this class, I don't want the fact that your schedule doesn't, show me, or your schedule doesn't allow you to work anymore because of that box. I don't want that to stop me from seeing that you could tutor that class, because maybe we make some rearranging or add to your, and do that 2-person at once, where you're not working any more time, but you're helping do a class that's not hard to, or not easy to find somebody for. So again, put your target there, but don't click that box for now. Maybe there's a point in the semester where we're like, hey, let's click it so that we don't see you and we're not overbooking you, right? But I think I want to see, I'm not sure how it's going to show up on our end once we see the schedule, but I'm hoping I see how many hours you're willing to work in the system, or it shows me how many hours you'd have left for the week. So that would be ideal. I just don't know yet. So leave that box unchecked, and then you would just do update target hours. I won't do that to my Angela for now. The other thing, then you can see just some quick, reminders. They've got this appointments area. Obviously, there's nothing in there yet, but once things start getting booked, you can see your upcoming appointments. And then down here's the reporting area. So you'd have some appointments here. You would be able to click on a box in front of the appointment you want to do a appointment summary for, and you'd have the option of either doing an appointment summary or marking as a no-show. So mark as a no-show, they're actually identical, but it'll just kind of put in the system that the person didn't show up. So hopefully that's not happening too often, but if it does, do that. And then if it happens a second time and we didn't contact you about it, or the person stood you up twice, maybe send us a separate email above this mark no show. We want to know if they're not showing up consistently. So hopefully if it's a no show, you've reached out to them, emailed them, or if you had their cell phone, contacted them somehow and found out what happened. If they have an explanation, okay. But if you never hear from them and they don't respond to you, let us know, like maybe even after the first one, let us know, hey, this was a no-show and I've never heard from this person. I don't want it to keep happening to you. And it shouldn't. We'll make sure it doesn't if we know about it. The typical appointment summary, and it's not going to let me show, is again, sort of a fill-in form, but the main thing I want you to tell us is the basics, like the appointment summary itself. There's like a big box that's kind of open-ended. So completing that, letting us know each time you have a session is important. We want to know so we can look at those if we need to. And we can see a track record. So if things are good, we also want to see that. We want to know like, hey, he's doing good. He's been at every appointment. Like we want to be able to, talk to them about that. We want to be able to talk to their coaches about it if necessary. So make sure you're filling out a report right here in this area on EAB after every single appointment you have. Shouldn't take too long, but we want to make sure we're keeping records of that. In the students area, you won't really have assigned students. So it's mainly this availability and appointments, but know that those getting your availability in again by the 27th would be great, but you could have into that next week if you need it. Any questions over EAB? You guys are very quiet. Angela, you didn't know you were going to be the star of this session. I didn't either, I promise. But I'm going to turn it over to my Angela, who has not been tutoring in a little while, but was for a while. And she's going to show us Workday. So I'll have you just bring it up. You can probably do all the work and explain it all. Are you able to share?
You'll have to stop sharing.
Oh, I have to stop. Yeah. Thank you. I noticed I wasn't.
That's perfect. Are you able to see my screen? You can see my screen, correct?
Now I can. My computer's slow.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
I think everybody else saw it way before me.
Perfect. So obviously this is my suite of tools. Workday is just its own kind of item here. And then when you go in, I do believe everyone should look the same once it loads. As far you'll have it on the side. All this other stuff is cool, but the one part that matters is time. So you'll just click on time and then it'll have, by week, you'll click this week if you need to update it because you forgot something last week. Obviously we get paid in 2 weeks intervals, so you can always update time as long as the time is still open. If time closes or say like you missed the time deadline, you will have to email your time over to the administrator. It will not let you input it into Workday, unfortunately, until a little bit of time has passed.
Yeah, I will say this. That's a great point, Angela. Essentially what happens is they're running the payroll like in the day or day and a half, maybe 2 days right after it's due. And actually not after it's due, like the 2 days after, like due in the morning on the Monday. I think the Tuesday, Wednesday, you can't input things those couple of days. So after that, it kicks back open where you could go back in time and put it in. So it's possible to, go back. You don't have to contact me. You can put it in. Ideally, you're always putting in the time before it's due on those Mondays. So, things happen, but try to be on top of those due dates and make sure they're entered ahead of time. Go ahead, Angela.
Yeah. And then this is this week. I do something in the summer here at SLU. So this is what this looks like, but say if it was for tomorrow, you just go in to an empty time block. It really doesn't matter which, double click, and then you can just type in the time. And that's pretty much it. If you'd like to leave a comment, you're more than welcome. But say like if it's about an hour, just go in, type in 6, type in 7, and then you just press OK. If you do have multiple on-campus jobs, like once they're all input in the Workday system, This will also bring up a drop down, and you'll be able to choose like which one the time should be allocated to. So just keep that in mind, like if you're doing multiple things on campus, that you will have to make sure you're charging it to the right department. But if not, it'll just look like this screen. You'll press OK, and then it'll be inputted there. And then at the end of the week, you'll press like review and submit after those 2 weeks are in.
Yeah, and for us, I'm going to suggest that you review and submit each time you work. I've been told by HR they would prefer that I'm approving time as it's done. So I don't want you to wait until the end of the period. You can if you forget, or it's just, I'll just do it at the end of the week. It's okay, but as long as it's in before the due date. But ideally, according to HR, they would like for us to have it in when you've worked. So let's say you work on Thursday 19 for an hour, go in and do your EAB report and say, here's how the report went. Go into Workday real quick, submit that hour, and then you're done and you won't forget about that hour. So it's better to do it as you go. I'll say too, my Angela said, you could put a comment there. I'd kind of like it if you put the person's name. If if you're like, what was that guy's name? Like, don't worry about it. It's not that big a deal, but it does help me see on payroll who you're working with. And it might just make it easier for me, like, oh, that another no-show, you might even do that too on the comment and say like, Kevin, no-show, like that simple. Just to keep a little bit extra record of what that time was. That helps me a lot too. Okay, I think that's a good on Workday, unless anybody has questions for me or my Angela.
The only thing I think is really cool is that if you click this up here, kind of right by where your name is, I don't know if you're this geeky or whatever, but you can access a lot of kind of like payroll, see your pay stub, what that'll look like. A lot of that information is located kind of at your convenience here. So if you ever just are curious about how many hours you've got total, or if you did it correctly, you can go on this side and access all of your personal data.
Awesome. I don't see what you guys see, but I didn't know that either. Thanks, my Angela. Appreciate it. Awesome. Okay. Any questions over scheduling? Well, location, in-person tutoring, scheduling, or payroll? No, we're doing a good job. All right. Let me check my notes and get a drink of water real quick. Okay, let me share. A couple things. So we got our tutor handbook. I sent you a copy of this. I said I promised I would talk about it a little bit more. I'm not going to go back through it all, but I do want to reinforce the ideas that it's important that you do not cheat any sort of academic integrity. Make sure you guys are on, the cautious side of that. So what I think I mean by that, and I've said this in the interviews that I do, sorry, I'm trying to bring myself up here so I'm not looking. There we go. Obviously, you shouldn't give someone a paper that you wrote. You shouldn't help them cheat. You shouldn't do a test online for them. Don't do that. I've said this again in the interviews that there's sort of a gray area where they have a take-home test. They didn't tell you it was a take-home test, but you are a helpful person who's being paid to help them. And you're like, oh, I know how to do that. Here, let me show you how to do that, right? So ask those questions. Do you get points for this? Is this a test? Let's talk about the concept and then you do the problem, right? So I'd say especially now with so much being online because of COVID, but now a lot of instructors are probably saying, you know what, that wasn't so bad. Now that I've got this test set up, I'm just going to do it this way all the time, right? So you might have more and more of those online exams. Don't help with those. Don't do them for them, but helping with them is a gray area as well. You need to lead them through it. do examples versus doing the actual problem. So be cautious of that. The other thing it mentions here, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the NCAA guidelines and regulations. There's sort of three big ones here in this column. The extra benefit is something to remind you of, that we aren't allowed to provide anything extra for the athletes. That could be money, it could be food, transportation, as it's got things here like laundry, doing laundry, selling game tickets and things like that. So anything that's, an extra benefit to them is unacceptable as a violation in the NCAA rules. So be cautious of that. I don't expect anyone to do that, but I want to make sure that's a rule. Academic fraud is repeated here. That's again, probably number one in my mind. Don't do those things. Zero tolerance policy. So don't do that. And then gambling activities. So reminder that as employees of NCAA and of St. Louis University, we aren't allowed to gamble on NCAA sanctioned sports. So you can't put out money to win money back. I always give this example. If I put out $5 for my NCAA March Madness pool with my friends, that's illegal. I can't put in money to win money back, right? That's gambling. Seems innocent. It's just you and your friends. It's $5, not a big deal. It is the NCAA. You can, however, enter a contest. So that same bracket is on ESPN's website, and you fill it out, and millions of people fill them out. And you could win money in that contest, but you're not gambling. You're not putting money out to win money back. So know that there's a difference between those two things. So those are the big rules, so make sure you follow. And then the handbook gets into the tutorial process, planning, things like that. I'm going to bring up a different sheet to walk through this a little bit, and then also ask some of you guys to give me some examples and some experiences as well. So this is something, it's for one reason or another, I think over time the formatting has changed. So pay no attention to this weird looking graph. But I've always thought this was a good way to think about the hour-long session, right? So it seems like, boy, an hour feels like a long time. If they don't bring any work, and not any work, but if they only bring a little bit of work, well, we're done. See ya after 20 minutes. Really, the hour should be easy to fill up if you're sort of following these steps. So, obviously you're going to greet them and get to know them, set the environment. I think in person, we're going to have that, back over the Zoom. Identification of task, right? So what do they need to work on? What are they struggling with? What do they understand? Where are they at in the class? Maybe you had the same instructor. Maybe the class really well. Maybe you didn't, and you don't know it that well, and it's been 2 years since you took it. So again, your knowledge of the information may have altered in the time since you took the class. So get to know where they're at and where you're at, and that takes a little bit of time. Breaking the task into parts, could be writing a paper. Well, let's do an outline what you're going to write about. And then let's go ahead and go from there. So whatever process you might follow, breaking up what needs to get done is going to help them understand better, taking small chunks versus a big picture. Identifying the thought processes which underline those tasks. So as it says here, one of two of the most critical steps in tutoring. And sometimes the least practiced. I think I agree with that. So helping them understand isn't just showing them how to do it, right? It's asking them questions that lead them to answers, helping them see the big picture if necessary. Sometimes it feels like, well, you got to get this answer right. But if understanding more than just that answer is going to be a big part of it, I think, right? We're on step 5 of 12, and we're already talking about the next session. So I think chunk 3 and 4, right, are a bulk of the time. So it says here, set the agenda for, I thought it was moving on to the next session for the session. So again, once you've established those things, you're going to sort of lay out what you're going to do versus just jumping right in. So you might want to think about, how are we going to tackle this? Address the task. Again, I'll send this in an email, follow-up email. So you can read through these steps, but I don't want to spend too much time on them. But I think they are valuable going into the semester to be able to look through and get get people where you want to get them, right? Help them get where they want to be. There's a summary, right? So them summarizing what's been going on and them explaining back to you. I think, again, this says the second most critical step is getting them to explain everything that you guys just did, right? This confirmation, step 9, is important as well. Reinforce those specific accomplishments, like give them some encouragement as to what they've done and what they're going to do. And then the what's next, right? What is the next step? Do they have a test coming up? When are you going to meet again? I think that's a valuable one, not just for the knowledge, but also the understanding of the next session, right? Do they have a game next week? I think you should always ask that. Hey, what's next week look like? You don't have a game, do you? Right? If you know they're in season, of course, you might not know that up front, but once you get to know them, who you're working with, like, oh, you're a soccer player. Oh, okay. Well, you might have a game midweek. So you're helping yourself not get stood up if you talk about that in advance. They should communicate with you about that, but they don't always. Sometimes they just assume, oh, well, Roy or Heather will change that in the system. They know I have a game when I'm not thinking of them, right? They're the last thing on my mind, and that game is something I'm not going to go in and cancel. So, talk to them about the next session as well. Obviously, closing and goodbye should be friendly and hopefully helpful. But those steps are something that's kind of outlined in our handbook, but also I think this handout is good, and I'll get this to you so you can read through it. Just a good idea to review prior to the semester. I'll call on some of my returners. I know I don't have a lot on here right now. I wish I had more. And I'll probably be picking on you, Maya Angela, again. But in terms of the handbooks, situations and some strategies, right? I sometimes go through a few of them in the interview, usually the same ones, but any returners brave enough to talk about common problems or issues that you might have. I know it might feel weird with COVID and it might be talking about how Zoom was bad, but hopefully we're solving that problem a little bit. But Zoom wasn't too bad, I hope. But do any returners have any advice for our newbies? Don't all jump at once. I'm going to force you in a minute, but I will also ask the other way. Any questions from our new folks? You can all hear me, right? Now I'm concerned no one can hear me.
I guess I can try a piece of advice, but I hate to beat a dead horse and tell you something that you already know. But I think, the big thing is that everyone's learning style is different, if that makes sense. So like how you may learn versus how a student may learn could differ. And that's, of course, just like a learning curve. We're getting to know them a little bit better, but just keep that in mind as far as saying, taking it slow and kind of figuring out like how do they learn, and then also just recognizing that how they learn may not be the same way the professor teaches, and also just kind of considering that if it's a class you've taken before or something that you can identify with, just different ways in which you can kind of show that material without it being redundant and less effective because it's not the style in which they learn, if that makes sense.
That's great. Thank you, Angela. I would say one thing that I don't really know is an issue or a problem, but I'll be honest, like I'm looking at the names on here, but also all of my tutors are all very nice people. You guys are very sweet and kind, and that's awesome in a tutor. However, I would say sometimes if somebody's struggling, they might just need a little bit of a kick in the butt. So some advice I might give is I'm sort of give you the power. I'm going to empower all of you to be the authority in your tutoring session. As a peer, you want to be their friend, you want to help them, right? And that's great. I don't need you to motivate them. However, it might be frustrating for you that they aren't very motivated for whatever reason. And again, it could be just, boy, they don't like the class, or they're just really struggling and they don't want to admit it. So there's all sorts of reasons that they might be kind of quiet or not participate as much as you might want them to. but trying to get them on your side, trying to say, hey, look, this is important that you understand this concept because the next thing's going to build on it. Like whatever reasoning you have in your inside of you to do well in classes, and put in the time and put in the effort. You want to try to relay that to them and help them understand, like, you know what, this econ class kicked my butt too. Like, this was really hard and it took a lot of studying, and it was every night. I had a study group, I had a tutor, I went to the office hours of the instructor, like give them, as much motivation to do more as possible. And again, hopefully most people are already motivated, are coming to you with questions and completed homework, but the person who's showing up that's struggling, that's not, maybe struggling for a variety of reasons, not just academic things, but they haven't attempted the homework and they don't seem interested. That's frustrating, but I'm telling you now, be that coach. They're used to coaching, and they probably want that out of a tutor. Again, you don't have to make them run laps or anything, but I think giving them a little bit of that coaching, motivation is something you can and should do. So talk to me about that if you're worried about those types of things. Any other experiences, examples of things? I will say too, I noticed a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, but quite a few no-shows. Now, again, no-show means different things. So that no-show appointment this past year, when everything was on Zoom, I think there was an easy excuse to not be on. And because you don't have to see the person face to face at any point. And it's like, well, I'm just not going to get on there. And again, I'm making it sound like everybody's standing everybody up. That's not the case. I'm just saying it seemed like there were more because of the situation, right? So we'd like those to not continue. Just make sure if that's happening, you let us know. You don't want to have 3 or 4 weeks in a row of no shows. I want you to work. I want you to, help people. And I want them to get the help. So ideally you're able to, let us know quickly so we can make those stop. I think some people just were like, oh, another no-show. And we're marking it, but maybe Heather or I was not going and investigating the way we could have and should have. So, I'm just asking maybe to take that extra step of emailing us and saying, hey, I got no-showed a second time. I just wanted to let you know. And then we can hopefully make it not be a third time. Okay. I'm at 52 minutes. Maybe I'm at 50 minutes because we started a few minutes after, but I think I've basically covered everything I wanted to cover. Are there any questions from new folks? If there's any individual ones after the group, please stick on, I'll stay on. But I'll just, again, like a good tutor would do, let's review. In person, go to the lobby to meet the person every time, unless you've established enough of a relationship that you know where to go, right? Hey, we're here every Monday, just come here, right? But in terms of the scheduling and the way they see it, they're going to see athletic department lobby. So that's where they should go. And that's where you should go to meet them. You're going to get an email from EAB Navigate when I've scheduled something. So keep an eye on your emails, of course. I won't typically schedule anything within 24 hours. So hopefully you've got at least a day, if not 48 hours, notice that you've got the appointment. And then typically it's an hour-long weekly appointment, but it could be a once, hey, I need help with a test kind of thing. And then again, if it is shorter notice, I'll try to email you separately. Again, the email should be, if you're going to check your email, you'll see. So I might just even put a note in there saying, oh, sorry, this is short notice. Let us know if you can't do it. That's the other thing too. If something comes up for you or the schedule gets too tight, let us know and we'll work with you. So again, you'll get that email, you'll show up in the lobby, you'll do the appointment much as we discussed. And then at the end, you're going to file that report, that appointment summary in EAB Navigate, as well as go into Workday, enter your time and submit it as you work. Okay. That's a job in a nutshell. Okay, I think I've hit it all. And if anybody's got any individual questions, feel free to stick around. Let me know if you need anything. Oh, last thing, sorry, HR. So for all the new folks, you need to go, sorry, you shouldn't go, but you should receive an email. Ooh, has anybody gotten an email already from HR? Fingers crossed, not yet. Give me can you do a thumbs down? What are your reactions? Let's see. No, you can only do a thumbs up, I think. Oh, wait, are there more? All right, so I'm assuming, oh, what did Anna say? Okay, haven't gotten one yet. Okay, so I'm assuming tomorrow or the next day, you should be getting something. So that gives hopefully enough time for you to get to the Wool Center. So you have to schedule that appointment. They'll send you that email, tell you where to go to fill out forms, and then you'll need to go to the Wool Center with your identification. So again, I hopefully I gave you enough warning about that. So if you're still at home and not here yet, you'll have time to get it, of course, but that's typically a passport that would take care of both the photo ID as well as the legal document. But then if you don't have a passport, you need to have a social security card typically, and a photo ID. Could be driver's license, could be student ID, I think even works. But normally you have a driver's license and then grab your social security card before you head to campus. And hopefully you already have those things so you can get the HR part done. And like I said, on Monday, I put everybody in. There's a couple of people not on here that didn't go through, so I had to do it again today. So they won't actually kick in for a couple of days, but essentially you'll have a couple of weeks to take care of that HR process. Once you've done that, and I get word that you're hired in the system, I'll put you into EAB Navigate, and then I'll also send you a Google form to complete that's a confidentiality waiver. So I'll have you do that before you begin tutoring as well. Likely we won't have any appointments, for sure not that first week. That's the short week. I'd be shocked if we even schedule anything in the first full week, but I'm hoping that by that second full week of the semester, we're definitely going to be scheduling some appointments for that week, if not that week before. So ideally, again, anybody that's new is able to be in the system by the 27th at the latest, which would again be that Friday of that short week. Is there one more chat question there? No, returners do not need to do the HR work. Thank you for asking, Carly. If you've already done that, you're good. You're in the system. So sorry, that's just for new folks. Everybody else is good to go. You should be able to actually go in and put your time in now since it says fall in EAB. All right, I think I covered everything. I hope I didn't forget something super important. All right, thanks guys. We're 3 minutes early in my mind. I'll see you soon. And I might actually see you. Thank you, my Angela.
Thank you.
Hey, Roy.
Yeah,
I
I'll
guess
stop recording if you want.
Yeah.
Let's see, after stopping, you'll